This is just the beginning. And once this Brazilian indictment matches up with the investigation in Buffalo, I think I don't know if you have a bad word button here, but I think the shit's really going to hit the fan, and I think it's going to happen within the next 30 days.
Do you think that there will have to be some kind of, well, it has to be some kind of international cooperation here then in regards to, do you know if they can be tried under international law, or is it going to be either within U.S. or Brazilian law? Do you know?
I believe it'll be both. I think that there are going to be indictments in both in the United States and with Buffalo also. Or Brazil.
Yeah, well, exactly, Brazil. How about the Jesters in general? Have you been researching a lot about what some of the rituals are? Have you digged into their connections with, for instance, Freemasonry and so forth? Or what can you say about that?
Right. There are on their website. They're very proud of the fact that they are Masons. And in some of my articles, I'm not sure which one, but I do have links to the rituals, the Book of the Play. There's a thing called the Rose Ceremony, which is for when one of them dies. And the Book of the Play is supposedly Shakespearean. My first article, Jesters Exposed, talked about something really boring, and it's tough for me because what really excites me is the nonprofit corruption. I'll spend hours and days and months reading tax returns, and it's crazy. In fact, one of the tax returns for the National Royal Order of Jesters indicates that they spent nearly $600,000 on one of their weekend parties.
Oh my, that's quite a lot.
That's $12,000 a minute.
Yeah. Oh.
And when you think about them going down to a foreign country and exploiting, tearing apart families, $12,000 a minute, $12,000 a year down there would be absolutely huge.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. This is an elitist group of people who believe that they're rich and powerful, and they think they can do these horrific crimes, the human trafficking, the sex slavery, the prostitution network, the child sex tourism, and possibly the pedophilia if once we find out what's coming out of Brazil. These men expect to do these things and have their brothers protect them, which is part of their Masonic code. Part of their promises is, let's say you and I are in the same little club, and I would swear that I would lie to protect you at any cost, and that's what these guys have going for them, and that's crazy.
Yeah. Just rewatching Inside the Brotherhood, a documentary that we had up on the website a while back as well, and this is written by Short. Let's see here, what's his first name? Is it Richard Short? I'll bring this up in a minute. And he, of course, as well talked about the many Freemasons could both be convicted criminals and police at the same time, which is kind of interesting situation when you think of it. What overrides what? Some people say, no, these are good police officers, and even judges, they prosecute people no matter what they are. Some people say that it's bound to lead to corruption and so forth. So this is a very, very tricky area. But also, if we can talk a little bit more about the Jester, this is, of course, a specific kind of order that I guess they self say that their pursuit is of mirth and merriment in that sense. And I know even that some Freemasonic groups on the surface had said that they don't consider the Jesters to be kind of a legit Masonic order. What do you have to say about that?
Well, they've got to be a legitimate Masonic order because they've got to be legitimate Masons to be in the Jesters, to be in the Shriners, and to be the Masons. So if people want to deny the linear family tree down from Masonry, I think that argument, won't hold much water. But getting back to the Masonic promises, here it says they swear to you must conceal all crimes of your brother Masons, and should you be summoned as a witness against a brother Mason, be always sure to shield him. It may be perjury to do so. It is true, but you're keeping your obligations. And they can tell each other anything, and there are only 2 crimes that they will break this vow on, and one is murder and one is treason. And that's it. Otherwise, if anything else goes.
Okay. How about that?
So,
and,
and you're precisely correct, because these are people in position of power.
Yes, I know there's a few places, and again we can mention from the Buffalo News article again that the Jesters, a 90-year-old nationwide fraternal group whose past members have included movie stars, judges, prominent businessmen, and 2 presidents. I think it's Ford, and who was the other president involved in that as well?
Truman, I think.
What? That's right. It was Truman. That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there you have it. It's top branches, as it were, and it's by invitation only. And what about the what can we call it, the actor, right? The little semi-god of the Royal Order of Jesters. What do you know about that?
Oh, the Billiken?
Yeah.
He's copyrighted at a university somewhere, and the online version of the Billiken it looks like he blinks his eyes, and at the same time his I don't know, his penis pops up and down, and it's this little naked fat guy with blinking eyes, and his penis is popping up and down, and he symbolizes mirth and merriment and whatever. The most shocking thing, I believe, is that somehow these jesters sold this idea to somebody at the IRS. These guys are a non-profit group. So what we have here is a non-profit group who parties with prostitutes, some minor, some underage, at taxpayer expense. And I think that's why this should catch everybody's eye and shock everybody. Because for example, when they built this huge $1 million headquarters in Indianapolis, Indiana, the Royal Order of Jesters, supposedly to house a museum. And when they went to get their property tax exemption, the property assessor says, well, it really doesn't look too much like a museum to me. So they denied it, and they appealed, and then the Royal Order of Jesters National went on to tell the tax assessor, well, we're an appendant group of masonry, so they got that. They got that then.
Do you think that this is common in a sense that they're hiding behind that guise of being a non-profit organization, and that gives them both legal and, of course, financial benefits?
Yes, to possibly include the personal benefit. Let's say I am a member of a court of one of these guys who went to Brazil. Well, if I donate to that court and take the deduction from my taxes as a tax-exempt contribution, and the court pays for my trip, then, the guy gets to take the deduction. The Royal Order of Jesters gets to take the deduction. And so when they don't pay their taxes, we make up for them not paying for their taxes.
How about that? And the president of the Jesters, Gary N. Martin, he says in the article again that, yeah, of course, I mean, what else is he going to say, right? But he says that he's disturbed about the allegations, but Martin said that to his knowledge, such conduct is extremely isolated and never condoned by the organization. Is there anything you can say about that?
Yeah, I never had sex with that woman. You bet. Absolutely. See, this is the problem. And I believe this is why the Jesters is such a burden, such a problem for the Shriners, because Gary N. Martin is also on the board of governors for the Mexico Shriners Hospital. And so they have conflicted interests. And when they're supposed to be running the hospitals, are they busy thinking about their next weekend party? It's just this hypocrisy, because essentially those jesters are actually hiding behind burned and crippled children and using them to say, oh, I'm such a good guy, I'm doing all this stuff, and so I'm invited to join this jesters thing. And it's just I don't even know if I can say this word. It's just a clusterfuck.
Yeah. How about, how do you think a thing like child abuse creeps into an organization like this, and how can it be allowed in there without someone. Well, there have been people, of course, dropping off all the time. That's what we've been talking about here, and they fed up with it and don't want to be associated with it anymore, hence quitting. But do you have any idea or theory about how that can creep in and maybe even how far back it goes? Do you have an idea?
Well, I have a theory, and this is just a theory, because there is another secret subgroup of the Royal Order of Jesters called the Sobib. And so what I believe you're talking about is the possibility of ritualistic sexual abuse of children. And I'm not sure what the Sobib is, but it stands for Secret Order of Brothers in Blood. And I have a link in one of my articles on my Newsvine site to the actual directory. And in fact, Judge Tills was a member of the Sobib, as are some, I think Gary Martin maybe also. I'll have to check. And at one point, Ralph Sem, the head of the Shriners Hospital Board of Governors, he's listed in the Sobib directory also. So what is this? I believe that what actually we're possibly looking at is maybe the colonial mindset that goes back to the roots of Freemasonry. Because what did our founding fathers do? Essentially, I'm Native American, and essentially, those who came from Europe were at one point European illegal aliens in our nation, and so they came over here and just took and killed, and I believe to a great degree committed a genocide against Native Americans. And so it's this mindset of manifest destiny. I can do what I want. My brothers are going to protect me. And in fact, in Europe, I'm sure you're very familiar with efforts for certain governments, police, elected officials, that there are efforts to make it mandatory that they disclose if they are Freemasons, because their jobs are compromised. If they arrest someone and they're a Mason, then they get preferential treatment.
Okay. So and it goes back potentially to that idea of blackmail again, that you might not even be able to ascend to a position within the quote-unquote the elite here without actually doing some kind of act like
dirty
this.
deeds done cheap, right?
Right. And do you think that that's common across the board at this point?
Boy, it sure looks like it.
It does, doesn't it?
Sure looks like it to me. Yeah, I believe, in fact, this Jester thing, I believe that we may find members of the United States Congress who are also Jesters. I know that there's a deputy director I believe that the deputy director of the Louisiana Law Enforcement Commission is a Jester. The 19 Jesters who were called as witnesses out of the Brazilian fishing trip, one of them was a regional planner out of Florida. These guys are doctors, dentists, business owners. In fact, in Brazil, on that trip, some of these guys were fathers and sons. Fathers and sons going down, and from the depositions of the fishing tour guides, they said these Jesters asked, in fact, to be called Masons, and that they asked for girls over 13. So I don't know if you have a little sister or know anybody who has little girls between, 13 to 18 or 16, and their lives are ruined. In the depositions of the girls who gave the testimony to the Brazilian federal police, a little 13-year-old girl said she was left pregnant by a North American tourist. So it's not clear whether they were discussing actually the Royal Order of Jesters in their depositions, but they did mention a man named Richard came to take them illegally off their Indian reservations. So this is horrific.
Absolutely. I'm reminded a little bit when you tied this back to the Native Americans. We had, don't know if you heard about him, you probably have Kevin Annett on the program a while back. He's done a documentary called Hidden from History, Canada's Genocide, which absolutely talks about this. He comes from this from a perspective that this has been primarily run from the church that came into the region of Canada. But again, it shows the same. It's a mix between violence, sexual abuse, and different kinds that is being done on Native American children,
Yes, exactly. And in this case, what I'm seeing is these men seem to be targeting women of color. And that's